I never thought Christmas morning could feel like the moment my world cracked in two. The lights from the tree still flickered softly in the corner of the living room, casting warm reflections on the ornaments we had hung together just a week earlier. My wife, Clara, stood across from me with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. When she extended her hand to me and said, "Merry Christmas, darling," I thought she was joking. A handshake. That was my gift. No warmth, no kiss, not even the small spark of tenderness that used to define us. I squeezed her hand, searching her face for some explanation, but she only gave a little shrug, as if my confusion wasn't her concern. Something inside me tightened. A warning bell I tried to ignore. I wanted to believe it was just her odd sense of humor, or maybe stress from hosting Christmas dinner for her family later that day. But the distance between us had been growing for months, and this strange gesture only deepened the hollow feeling I'd been carrying. Her younger sister, Melissa, was already in the kitchen, humming as she poured herself another glass of wine though it was barely noon. Melissa had always been more carefree, sharper around the edges than Clara. She teased me often, sometimes a little too much, but I brushed it off as part of her personality. Still, when Clara walked away without another word, Melissa caught my eye and smirked like she knew something I didn't. The day dragged forward. Relatives came and went, laughter filled the house, and Clara played the perfect hostess. To everyone else, she looked radiant and cheerful, but I noticed how little her attention lingered on me. She didn't sit near me at dinner, didn't reach for my hand under the table like she used to, didn't even ask if I enjoyed the meal. Every small omission was a knife twist I couldn't show anyone else. Later, when the guests left and the house grew quiet, Clara claimed she was exhausted. She kissed the top of my head, mechanically, like a duty, and said she needed to sleep. I stood in the living room, staring at the twinkling lights on the tree, wondering how my marriage had slipped into this cold silence without me realizing it. That was when Melissa appeared again, barefoot, a half-empty glass of red wine in her hand. "You look miserable," she said, leaning against the doorframe. I forced a weak smile. "Just tired. It's been a long day." She stepped closer, her gaze sharp, almost studying me. "Clara doesn't see you anymore, does she?" Her words hit like a punch. I wanted to defend my wife, to push back against the implication, but the truth was too raw. Melissa set her glass down and, before I could respond, placed her hand on my shoulder. "You deserve more than a handshake on Christmas," she whispered. I froze. My heart pounded with a mixture of guilt and anger. "Melissa, don't," I said, my voice low. But she didn't move away. Instead, she leaned closer, her breath warm against my ear. "She's been betraying you for months. I thought you should know." The room seemed to spin. I grabbed her wrist and stepped back. "What are you talking about?" Melissa's eyes softened, and for the first time, I didn't see the playful younger sister. I saw someone carrying a burden. "Clara isn't who you think she is. She's been seeing someone else. That's why she's so cold to you. I've watched her sneak out, take late-night calls. I've wanted to tell you, but," she hesitated. I didn't know how. I shook my head. No, you're wrong. She wouldn't." But deep down, the puzzle pieces began to arrange themselves. The late nights working, the sudden distance, the dismissive way she treated my efforts to reach her. A handshake as a gift. It was all too absurd, too symbolic. Melissa stepped closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "She doesn't deserve you. I wouldn't treat you like this." And then, without waiting for me to process, she took my hand and tugged me gently toward the hallway. My body moved on instinct, but my mind screamed at me to stop. I let her lead me only as far as the edge of the bedroom door before I pulled away. "What are you doing?" I demanded, my voice breaking. Melissa's face twisted with a mix of defiance and desperation. "I'm going to show you you're worth more than the scraps she gives you. You don't have to stay blind." I stared at her, stunned, torn between rage and disbelief. The weight of betrayal pressed down on me from both directions. My wife's silence, her sister's forwardness, the entire holiday collapsing into a nightmare. "No," I said firmly, stepping back. "This isn't how I find answers. This isn't who I am." Melissa's eyes filled with something like regret. She crossed her arms, her voice softer now. "Then at least open your eyes. Don't let her destroy you while you keep pretending everything's fine. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay awake beside Clara, listening to her steady breathing, wondering if it was the rhythm of a guilty heart or simply indifference. I wanted to shake her awake, demand the truth, but fear held me still. Fear of hearing what I already suspected. Over the next weeks, I became an investigator in my own marriage, quietly checking her phone when she left it unattended, watching her excuses pile up. And finally, one cold evening in January, I followed her when she claimed she had to meet a client. I sat in my car, parked across from a dimly lit cafe, and watched her embrace another man like he was the center of her world. In that moment, my chest caved in. The denial I had clung to evaporated. Melissa hadn't lied. My wife had been gone long before Christmas morning. When Clara returned home that night, I waited for her in the living room, the same spot where she had once given me that cruel handshake. My voice was calm, almost eerily so, when I asked, "How long?" She froze, her purse still dangling from her hand. The silence between us was heavier than any confession. And then in a whisper she said, "I'm sorry." It was both everything and nothing. Sorry couldn't rebuild what she had destroyed. Sorry couldn't erase the image of her in someone else's arms. I stood, walked past her, and opened the door. "Merry belated Christmas," I said bitterly. "You've given me my answer." As I stepped outside into the cold night, I realized the gift she had given me wasn't a handshake, it was clarity. Painful, shattering clarity. And though my heart ached, I knew I couldn't keep holding on to someone who had already let go. The tree lights still flickered behind the window, but inside, the warmth was gone. I walked away, carrying the broken truth with me, leaving both sisters and a fractured past behind.